Afternoon everybody, Rich here, back for another video for the Diecast F1 review. Here today is the McLaren MP4-23 from the 2008 Formula 1 World Championship, and it's Lewis Hamilton's first championship winning car. Quick rundown of the car. It's the last of the grooved tyre era cars from 2009. They all went to slick tyres and funny shaped wings, and yeah, it's the last of that sort of breed. The car with all the ridiculous flippy up bits, extra wings and vanes and all sorts of things, chimneys, whistles, all sorts of things all over these cars, and it kind of went a bit silly towards the end of 2008, but thank God they got rid of them. Quick rundown of the car's history. Of course, it's the first McLaren after that ridiculous situation they had in 2007, where they were involved in Spygate, or was it Liegate, or whatever. I think it was Spygate, wasn't it? There's so many gates going on here, you think you're on a farmyard. Yeah, part of the Spygate situation, the car had to be looked at quite thoroughly by the FIA before it was allowed to be driven on the track, so it's very similar to its predecessor anyway, the 07 car. And of course no traction control that year as well, which didn't really hinder many drivers because most rules are the same throughout the year. But anyway, quick rundown of the car. It was a sort of a year where McLaren sort of made it difficult for themselves, or at least Lewis Hamilton did anyway. Winning in the first round in Australia, a round of applause for that, but the season took a bit of a dive towards the mid-season of the year. His lucky win in Monaco, well I say lucky win, he did have a puncture and pitted, but it was sort of the right time when it did happen, because he pitted and then the rain started to come down and then eventually found himself back in the lead. Another win at the British Grand Prix, and I think I've forgotten which other races he won. I think he won 5 races that year. But if you're going to win a championship, you're going to win a few more than that, really. Like I said, it's sort of a difficult year, and of course the championship boiled down to the last corner of the last lap of the last race, where Lewis passed Timo Glock on the final corner to claim championship after Felipe Massa had already won the race and was champion for a few seconds. And I don't think there was anybody who didn't feel sorry for Felipe, because he'd done all the right things, he'd done what he had to do, and oh well, never mind. I know there are a lot of people who say it was a deliberate thing by Timo Glock letting Lewis by out, but I don't know. The weather was all changing up and down, so it's just one of those things. But it was a lot of tension. I know it was a really great race to see. Kept the public on the seat, on the edge of their seats, I expect. But it's sort of one of those years where it didn't look like it was Lewis's year. It didn't look like he deserved that year. 2007 maybe, but 2008 he just sort of made it difficult for himself with various mistakes and collisions and all sorts. But in the end, he got the championship. Like I said, 5 wins for Lewis that year, and also 1 win. I think it was 5 wins for Lewis. I don't know. I'll double check that. But there's also a win for Heikki Kovalainen in the other car. He won the Hungarian Grand Prix, and really because Felipe Massa's engine blew up late in the race. But kudos to Kovalainen. He done a good job that year. I think it was 4th or 5th in the championship, but he done a steady job and hung on till 2009. But yeah, the car was it was pretty much beaten all round by Ferrari. The Ferrari had a better car, but I think it's just inconsistency from Raikkonen and Massa just sort of gave McLaren the edge. But things happen. But anyway, onto the model itself. It's of course a Minichamps model. Mattel had already lost the rights to the McLaren license. I don't know if they actually lost the rights or just gave them up, because from 2008 onwards Mattel focused solely on the Ferraris. So maybe it's just them not wanting to renew and let Minichamps focus on the rest. It's sort of a lean year for Diecast, really, because you only had four initially Diecast 1/18 scale models, which was McLaren, Ferrari, Renault and BMW Sauber, and then later on they released the Toro Rosso. But it was quite a lean year, sort of a dipping point in the 1/18 market, but we'll get to that later on. But anyway, Minichamps model. I don't have to say that it does feel quite cheap though. I know there are some models which really do feel cheap, but this one, I don't know if it's sort of a defect on mine, but the steering in the suspension just feels really fragile. I don't know if it's whether it's an issue with just my model or it's an all-round thing, but it does feel quite fragile and sort of very loose joints all round, because as you can see the whole brake disc well, actually the whole caliper, or the whole area basically is loose on the spindle there, but I won't wibble it too much. But a lot of detail on this car, all the flippy up bits, wings, scoops, chimneys and all that shit, all nicely sculpted and nicely recreated. Of course I've got the silly wing on the front there, which is not really, I think it's got a central point holding it up. No, it doesn't, but not an issue. And I can see this wheel is already bent out of shape as well. I think that's an issue. Well, it is an issue, yeah, but I don't know if it's an all-round thing. I shall have to pop that back into place in a minute. I'll leave it as it is because I don't want to break it on camera, even though I probably already have. But yeah, I can't help but thinking that 143 should have been the one I bought for this, but never mind. But yeah, plenty of detail, lovely amounts of detail on this thing. Of course, it's the last of the rules with all these flippy up things on the cars. From 2009 onwards, the cars were completely stripped, and they did look good. I will do a review of the 09 McLaren as well, and I have to say I'm doing quite a few on McLarens at the moment. Anyone would think I'm a McLaren fanatic, but really I'm not. I just thought I'd get the McLarens out of the way, and then I can do a whole bunch of other cars as well, mainly Red Bulls or Ferraris or whatever. But I'll get to them later on, and that wheel is really bothering me now. That's going to be popped back in later on. I'll bugger it, do it later on. Yeah, quick view around the rear. We've got the monkey seat on the rear there. I'm not sure if there's a piece missing off the monkey seat I have, whether there's a piece missing across the centre or it's just the way it is. Who knows, but I never noticed this car had one, to be honest. But going to look around the crash structure. Also look underneath. Also got the painted plank underneath as well. It's sort of something Mattel used to do, and Minichamps used to just leave it black, but they sort of cotton onto the idea. Because I got the Minichamps logo there, McLaren MP4-23 2008, and of course the 1/18th in made in China land, as you'd expect. Also no keel on the car either, no keel on the suspension arms, or on underneath the chassis. The suspension bolts directly to the side of the monocoque. And I'm going to drop this. There we go. I really need to get something to do this properly, because I need a turntable or something, but yeah, don't want to get my fingerprints all over it. But anyway, also we've got the ridiculous spinners on the front wheels as well. The thing which caused so many problems in the past and throughout Formula 1. Really did not look good. But never mind, they got rid of them in the end after 2009, with cars losing wheels left, right and centre. They got rid of those spinners, and I did say they do look ridiculous with them. Never mind. Another look around here. I'll just do a quick zoom in on the cockpit. Zoom. Not a lot of detail. Well, plenty of detail, just not a lot of paint. As you can see, the steering wheel's quite nicely moulded. Steering wheel does turn a little bit, but there's no paint to speak of. And it's a bit of a letdown. Let's just turn the car around again. You can get a look at the driver, and also my hairy arm. As I said, hairy arse then, never mind. And you can see nice seatbelt details, nice details on the helmet. And quick look down the front of the chassis, number 22. And yeah, looks like there's a crack on the front of that wing, or a scratch. Never mind. I should have to do something about that later, or just put it back in the box and not think about it anymore. Camera back up, there we go. Yes, not a bad model overall, but I do say it does feel cheap in some ways. Like I said, with the suspension, it does look and has wobbled a bit. As you can see, it's spinning on its own, which really it shouldn't be. But yeah, it's still a hell of a lot better than that MP4-22 I reviewed by Mattel, which was absolute bollocks compared to this thing. It was a really dire model in terms of build. This thing is a hell of a lot better, but it still has its issues. It does feel a bit cheap in some areas, but a lot of detail involved in there, but also a lot of flexy parts as well. I nearly snapped that bit off. Strength wise, like I normally do with my models, review how versatile it is. There are a lot of pieces that will break off, like I just pointed out, suspension being one of them, and also these wings. A lot of them will snap off if you play with it, which you're not really supposed to do anyway. Just notice as well, this piece here, this wing, or this chimney rather, is actually die cast. It's actually nicely moulded onto the body. It's solid as a rock. That's not going to break off. Wing mirrors are quite strong. The wing on the front wing is a bit of an issue. It does feel a bit flimsy. but on this unit it's got the aerials there, the T-cam on the top. But yeah, it's not a bad model to look at anyway. It will look good on display. The paintwork is superb as well. It's not as chromy as the 06 car is, but either which, it's still very nicely done. It's nicely shiny, chromy effect. You can't really tell in this light because I'm not sure if the natural light's doing justice, because it's another shitty day. 3rd of August and it's a shitty day outside. It's cloudy and it looks like it's going to rain. But never mind. Anyway, that's my review for the MP4-23. Any requests for a review, then I shall do one if I can, if I've got the car. But overall, that's my review, that's my opinion, that's what I've got to say about the thing, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is me logging off, disappearing, and I shall return with another review. So bye for now.